Hey, everybody, welcome. Your saltwater guide, Captain Dave Hansen. We got a really good podcast for you today. We got our good buddy, Bill Varney, Fish the Surf Guru dude, always with us on Wednesdays. Bill will be here in just a second, but I want to touch on a few things real quick. First and foremost, I want to thank Okuma for being there for me for such a long time. I've basically been with Okuma for over almost 20 years now. And that's a pretty phenomenal time to be together. We've gone through a lot of different products and a lot of great things. John Bretson, Dave Brown, myself, Daniel Ramos, Mike Bennett. We've all been together for a very long time. I've been a product tester for a long time, and now I'm a full-fledged sponsee of Okuma. And I can't do this show without all my phenomenal sponsors. So I want to thank Okuma from the bottom of my heart for being there for me for a very, very long time. We've caught a lot of fish together, and the Okuma products have always stood up very, very well for me. You can look back through all my 5,200 videos available right now on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and you can see 99.9% of the videos show me using the Okuma products in one way or another. Once in a while, somebody else's rod will show up on someone's boat, but we don't spend much time with that. It's all Okuma all the time. So thank you, Sam. Thank you, John. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Daniel, for all the support. I really appreciate it. We got some really neat products to show you today on the show. But without any further ado, let's bring in my buddy Bill and see what's going on in beautiful Colorado. What's going on?
Hey, Captain Dave. Good to be here.
Bill.
Beautiful day out here in the mountains. And as everybody knows, I'm back from Cedros last week, and I just couldn't go. I think it lasted 2 days before I had to go fishing again. So been out there doing trout fishing, and it's been good. Haven't gotten any over 5 pounds this week, but there's always next week. So I'll be working on that. But it's good to be back. And man, we've had some unbelievably good surf fishing, as we'll see here in a few minutes. And I just wanted to, right off the bat, not only thank Okuma, because as I had told you folks last time, I had purchased the SST travel rod, medium weight travel rod from them. And that was a great rod to take on the road. It comes in a nice hard case, so you don't have to worry about it getting smashed, and it works great down in the surf. So I really enjoyed that. And everything else has just been going great. How about on your end?
We got a little bit of rain today, Bill, a little drizzle outside. It's kind of cleaning off the backyard a little bit. It's about 100 degrees with 99.9% humidity, and the humidity is actually falling out of the sky right now. So it's kind of different, kind of cool. Matt Ryan, good to see you. Matt he's at Bolsa Inlet right now, Bill. Tell him,
Okay.
give him a pointer. Give him a pointer. What should he
get her
do?
done? So let's look at the tide chart. So of course, today is the 14th today. 5:35 is a 5.2 high tide. This week is a really good, and that's a great place to be, is a really good halibut week, because this week we have what are called neap tides, which means that there's a very small tide change from low tide to high tide. When we have astronomical tides, it's like really big. It's like 8 feet. And now a day like today, we've got maybe like a 3 foot, 3.5 foot, 4 foot over the next few days, which gives you calm conditions. The surf is small today down there, really all along I was down at Carlsbad all the way up to Hermosa Beach. The surf is small today. So it's going to be good at Bolsa Chica. It's going to be good around 72nd Street in Long Beach. It's going to be good down at Carlsbad for halibut fishing today, because we have these very small tide changes. So get out there and do it, and use some of that grunion you picked up. Use a Lucky Craft, a Battlestar bait, a Castmaster, or a Crocodile, and hit those areas where you have rocks or structure adjacent to sand, especially right along that edge of where the rocks underwater from a jetty meet the sand. That's right where your halibut are. And there's some big ones out there.
He just right now, look at this, on his Lucky Craft right this second, Bill.
There you go. What a stud. Nice job, Matt. Nice job, man.
Matt Ryan down there making it happen. Look at that, Bill. Just like you said, it's a good day for halibut. Gang, it doesn't get
Boom.
much realer than that. That is right there. It's 21 inches exactly, Bill. You know what that means?
Got to stretch that jaw.
That's it. So close, Matt. Your next one's going to be a whopper. That's a throwback for luck. Your next one's going to be a whopper. Hey, Bill, we got our good buddy Pablo, who's been out fishing every day. We can't get him on visual, but we got him on audio. Let's check in with Pablo real quick while we're going here. Pablo, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and log out and try to get back in. I don't know why it's doing this.
Well, we can hear you fine, buddy. If you want to just tell us, what have you been doing?
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to log out and log back in real quick.
Okay.
Is that okay?
All right. Yeah. All right.
Hey, I've been watching Pablo's reports and postings on your Saltwater Guide and Facebook. He has been killing it. Like one day, I don't think the dock was big enough for all the fish they caught.
Oh my
so
God.
I can't wait to hear his report.
He had the most incredible day on Saturday. He had 25 nice yellowtail and a dorado on one kelp patty. One patty.
Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable. And that's what, you know what, Bill, if people listen back to our shows, previous shows, you were talking about how when you get the first hurricane that pushes that water into Southern California, the whole thing's going to change. We had Captain Al on here on Monday, and he was at the Coronado Islands. He was showing right next to the island at Pukey Point, purple blue water, purple, right next to the island in 20 feet of water. Then we had Justin out there fishing that tuna on Saturday, purple blue water, or Sunday, purple blue water at outside between San Nick and Santa Barbara. The water is incredible right now on the beach, offshore, and it's just like you said. As soon as we got that southern push and we quit having that northern, that's what kept the water cold for the last 3 months was that northern push, the constant northeast or northwest winds every day. So if you guys listen to what Bill is saying, there are real nuggets in what he's talking about. I promise you, just like what Matt Ryan just did, throwing the Lucky Craft. All this is stuff that you give out these nuggets over on our website now that you have your own bundle over there and you have the game plans going on over there. There's so much cool stuff that you all have access to now that you had to go out and pick it up here and there. Now you can get it all at one localized spot, yoursaltwaterguide.com. And Bill is doing something really cool right now. He's allowing you to all have this for free right now, just to show you the value of having his game plans that come out with all of our Al, Pablo, myself, Justin. We give you the game plans on Thursday. Now Bill's part of that, but the way Bill's marketing it right now so you understand how good it is, go ahead and tell him.
Well, what I'm doing is over the next 2 or 3 weeks, I will make those game plans available to everybody on Thursday. It'll be made up of a fish report, and we're going to maybe break it into 2 parts, make it a little bit easier to watch so it's not too long. And then the second part will be the meat and potatoes. It's the swell, the wind, the bait to use, how to rig, what beaches, where to go, what to do to catch more fish on the beach. So we'll do that for about 3 more weeks. And then after that's over, you'll have to sign up on the site on your Saltwater Guide, and then you'll have that available for you. And of course, that comes with a bunch of other things. So you'll see that here in the next couple days. We're going to post up what everything will be included with your membership. And it's really exciting because it will not only make you a better angler, but it will just stop wasting your time going down there and trying to catch fish that you can't catch because maybe you're not in the right place, or you don't have the right bait, or you didn't rig right, or you're not fishing the right way. So really looking forward to having everybody take a look at that, and had just a fantastic response and literally thousands of views of it. And then I thought what was so awesome, Dave, last week was a whole bunch of listeners who had watched it, who went down and fished afterwards, even some before, went on the Facebook post, and they made a bunch of postings of their fish and where they caught them and what they were. And there were like a dozen corbina, half a dozen striper. I mean, all kinds of fish. So it's really exciting to see the information get out.
Look at what Elliot just did for us, Bill. Elliot jumped on here. Thank you, Elliot. I know it's Wednesday. And I appreciate your time. Believe me, I know you're the busiest human on the planet. But look, Bill, he's showing everybody your bundles, your package over here at your Saltwater Guide, gang. That's what you get when you sign up.
Thank you so much, Elliot. And like, if you look at that top row in the middle, I'm sitting there in my backyard. That's a few minutes I took to tell everybody about my history, like where I came from, how I learned to surf fish, the people who helped me along the way, and also what we're going to give you every single week on your Saltwater Guide on our game plan. So you can get down to the beach on the weekend, whether it's in the summer right now or the middle of the winter, and catch fish down there. Really exciting stuff.
I want to take a few minutes today to talk a little bit about my background in surf fishing and also about my weekly game plans that have now been added to your Saltwater Guide. My family came to Los Angeles a long time ago. My great-great-great-grandfather, James Burroughs, who was from Connecticut, fought in the Civil War, and when the Civil War was over in 1865, he jumped on his horse and he rode his way to Southern California. He decided around that period of time that the place that he wanted to settle is what would later become Exposition Park, or what we know as the USC campus. He was a farmer there, and he began pumpkin farming there in the late 1860s. Then in 1922, my family decided that they wanted to move to Hermosa Beach, which, funny enough, in 1922 was a new community back in those days. So they moved to there in 1922, and that's when my Uncle Pete was born. And then in 1928, my dad was born. And my dad and his brother and my grandfather, they spent their time not only fishing on the beach there, but certainly up in the rocks in Palos Verdes. And then they also had a boat that they would pull ashore and fish off of that boat. Personally, myself, I was born in 1958, and so right after that, not really too much longer, I would probably say when I was still sitting on my dad's lap, we'd go out to the Hermosa Pier, and a lot more in those days to the Munstad Pier, which later was to become the Horseshoe Pier in Redondo Beach. And we'd go fishing out there, and gosh, I'd catch barred perch, bonita, walleye perch, shiners, buttermouth perch, a variety of different fish right off the pier, and certainly we'd fish right off the beach too.
Yep, there you go, gang. That's a part of Bill's life. That's what you get over at your Saltwater Guide. Do you think we can show a piece of that? We can. Good. So, Bill, I don't know if you've watched any of Michael Folks's film yet, The History of Sport Fishing, but it is the most incredible. Every time I watch a new piece of it, and it's 12-part docuseries about fishing, every one of those touch my heart like you can't even believe. It's an incredible docuseries, and it pretty much, Bill, for lack of a better word, it kind of tells our life story if you watch it.
Absolutely. And the other thing about, Michael can only cover so much of the history of fishing. Of course, fishing is the biggest industry in the entire world. It employs more people than any other industry does. It's been around forever because that's how people survive. As a matter of fact, I was writing a story about Cedros Island yesterday, doing a little research on it. And in 1540, when the Francisco, the Spanish conquistador, discovered Cedros Island, they had already had people living on that island from about 2,000 years before Christ, and they had invented the hook. So it's been around a long time. There's a lot of really interesting history about it. And now and then I have the luck to recount some of my dad's stories about what it was like to fish in Southern California and Hermosa Beach, Redondo, Manhattan, Palos Verdes in the 1930s. Just incredible stuff, a lot of which has been forgotten.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff on this History of Sport Fishing, gang. You learn, just like when we listen to Bill and the history of Bill and his life and his family and where they came from. You're going to learn so much about fishing that you had no idea. I knew a lot of us just go, wow, fishing's fun, and the reels and the rods today are really fun to fish with, but it takes you all the way back to the very beginning. And something that I learned, Bill, that I didn't know, And I know you've talked about it in the past, and it just went right over my head. But our forefathers, Michael has a whole section on this about how our forefathers, George Washington, John Quincy Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, these guys were outdoorsmen. All right, let's show this clip real quick, and then we'll get back into talking again.
I remember the very first time I went fishing. I was 3 years old. I remember it like it was yesterday. I didn't know what my dad did. I just know he left for work every day. When he came home at night, he was covered in salt and scales, fish scales, and I didn't even know what a fish scale was, but he would tell me what they were. They were all over his shirt, his pants, his belt. I remember chewing on his belt when I was a baby because it had salt on it. And it felt good in my mouth when I was teething. I swear, I remember all this like it was I know it's hard to think that you remember this stuff when you're a little kid, but I do. 3 years old, sitting on the counter, we're going on the afternoon trip with my dad. And my mom putting my shoes on while I'm sitting on the counter telling me we're going fishing with my dad. He was running the Some Fun off the pier, and the boat was tying up to the pier, and I was sitting on the rail with my mom holding me, and she's saying, "That's your dad." And him coming out on the back of the boat, and him waving at me and saying, "Hi, David." Oh, I had no idea this was going to hit me this hard. But yeah, I'm 60 years old, and I remember it like it was right now. And then we went to go down the ramp and get on the boat. It was incredible, and that was it. I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I wanted to fish.
Every single time I see that, it gets me every time. I'm crying like a little baby right now.
Man, it gives me goosebumps. I mean, it's such good stuff.
This is the history of sport fishing. Chapter 3, In Search of Giants. Without any real knowledge of the local waters and conditions, Zane spent 86 consecutive, long, hard days of toil without catching a fish until the fish of his lifetime appeared behind the boat, as shown in this historical footage of the first ever 1,000-pound fish ever captured with a rod and reel. Let's listen to Zane's account of this incredible fish in his own words as we quote from his book, Tales of Tahitian Waters.
Suddenly I heard a sounding, a vicious thump on the water, as Peter yelled, "Jesus!"
What an incredible docuseries, gang. If you haven't had the opportunity, Elliot will throw the QR code up on the screen, gang, or the way to get to this. It is an absolutely incredible docuseries. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a part of it. I'm saying that because it is. If you fished or ever even thought about fishing, you watch this, it's going to blow your mind. All the information you're going to learn about my favorite pastime. It is by far the best docuseries I've ever seen of anything, because of the fact that Michael Folks brings in all the people from around the world that have been a part of fishing. There's a great part in it, Bill, about how hard it was back in the day to get a TV show on TV from the networks when Bill Dance and Roland Martin and the boys were trying to get bass fishing on TV, and people were like, what? Nobody's going to watch fishing on TV. What are you talking about? And it's just so cool, all the great things. And Michael's app is available now on Android and on Apple. Here it is. Here's what it looks like. You can go over there to your Apple or your Google Play Store, and you can download. It's so simple now. And then you can have it right there, and you can start sharing it with your friends and families. Even if you don't fish, there's so much in this for you to understand. I had no idea that fishing is in the Bill of Rights for the United States of America. Our forefathers wanted to make damn sure that everybody on the planet could experience what little David Hansen experienced when he was 3 years old. They knew how important it was to the fabric of the United States of America and the citizens of the United States of America. It goes so much deeper than just how catching a fish. And Bill will tell you, when you get out there on the beach or you get out there on the edge of the lake and you're looking in the water and your line is touching the water and everything that's going on in your life melts away, and all you can focus on is trying to get a bite. All we want is a bite. We just want to feel that bite. What happens after the bite, that's not either here nor there. But just get me on the edge of the water and let me throw my line in the water and see if I can get a bite. And Michael talks about so many cool things that I didn't even know existed in the history, and chronologically lays it out, Bill, how the first rods and reels were put together and how they, before the rod and reel, how they hand lined and they only fished for sustenance and nobody fished for fun. And then you watch that, then you go over and you get to be a part of our website and our bitchin' community and see all the information Bill's willing to share and I'm willing to share. And then you'll start to understand why Bill and I have this deep reason to teach you guys, all of you out there, what we know. We want you to have the same effect on your family and your children and your grandchildren that Bill and I got to do. And I can't even comprehend how close we are, Bill, right now to losing this whole thing. We are on we're holding on by a piece of bubble gum and a piece of dental floss. It's not even a piece of thread anymore. They don't want us to fish in the United States of America, gang. It's super important to get involved with ccacalifornia.org, like Bill's hat says. Mm-hmm. Super important to watch this docuseries so you could understand. Yeah, it's cool that was me in the very beginning, but it could be you. It could be anybody that fishes. That's your story. Someone took you fishing. I was blessed to grow up in the industries. My dad did it since 1947 for a living, but there's so many other people out there, and it just touches your heart to see that that fish, the first fish a kid catches, man, the smile, you can't wipe it off their face. It's just incredible, right, Bill?
Oh, absolutely. And it's just one of those things that literally gets in your blood, and some of us, as like when I was a kid, I fished a lot and surfed all the time and stuff. And then when I got out of college, I had student loans, I had to have I had a full-time job, and I kind of I didn't lose my interest, but I didn't have as much time. I kind of lost my passion. And then 10 years later, I realized what I was missing. And I was so passionate to get back into fishing and do as much as I could all of the time. So just such a great sport. It's just so inclusive, if we got to use that term, of everybody. I have met every kind of person, rich, poor, every color, every religion, every sexual orientation, everything. And we don't talk about any of those things. We just talk about fishing and our passion for it and what we use and what our biggest fish was and what it was like when we took a trip to this place or that place. So it is a great sport that brings people together. I love it.
Me too. I can't imagine not having fishing and not being able to share our passion with other people. And that's basically what we do over at our website, yoursaltwaterguide.com. I want to just stop for 1 second. I want to show you guys this product that Okuma just came out with is absolutely incredible. I think you guys are going to get a kick out of this. Let me see if I can get it up here.
Hey guys, this is John Bretzel with Okuma Fishing Tackle. What we have here is an exciting new introduction from the Makaira family. The Makaira LBS, or land-based shark reel. It's a special edition model, going to be coming in a 50 wide as well as an 80 size. I've worked very closely with a lot of the hardcore land-based shark guys, and we want to make a reel just for you anglers, something that's just dedicated to shark fishing. And so what we've done is we built a reel, we like to say it's murdered out. Everything's blacked out, titanium vacuum coated parts for the harness lugs and the drag plates. You got the black shifter. The other thing we've done to really dedicate this reel to the shark anglers is that it's got the custom 125 millimeter handle for extra cranking leverage. It's going to come with a T-bar handle knob, which everybody loves, but this reel's also been upgraded where regular Makairas have an aluminum shaft. This is upgraded to a stainless steel shaft to make it that much stronger for the land-based shark guys. It also comes with dual drag cams, so our traditional aggressive drag cam that gives you really high drag output, as well as a TDC drag cam so that you can customize the drag settings all in one reel. We've also upgraded the clicker. It's got a new heavy-duty clicker design, which is all new in the Makaira LBS reel. It also features the custom etching on the left side plate, which really makes this reel dedicated to land-based shark guys. We utilize the hammerhead shark just because that's a good symbol for something that's just ultimate strength and durability. The other thing with this reel, the 50 wide, if you look at the drag system, it's going to have the carbonite DFD. At strike, it'll output a max of 60 pounds of drag. At full, it'll be 85 pounds of drag. When you look at the new 80 size, it'll be 70 pounds at strike and 100 pounds at full. As far as line capacity goes, the 50 wide holds 1,000 yards of 130 pound hollow core braided line. When you look at the new 80 size, which features an open top frame design, that'll hold 1,000 yards of 200 pound braided line. So if you're a hardcore shark angler and you like to do the land-based shark deal, you definitely want to take a look at these new reels. The 50 wide will retail for $769. The new 80 will be $999. If you want to find out more information about the new LBS reels, check it out on okumafishingusa.com.
Oh my gosh, I wish we had those when I was fishing those bluefin up there. I would be putting the hurt to them. That's a great kite rod. The amount of volume of line that holds when we're flying that kite way the hell out there trying to get a bluefin bite, that's an amazing reel. But Bill, we had a question from one of our guys, wanted to know, Jason Cutter, who's a big time surf fisherman, had a question for you right here.
Yeah, I saw that from Jason. That's a great question. So if I'm fishing mono, straight mono, and I'm tying it to my Lucky Craft or Battlestar or Castmaster Crocodile, probably just going to go straight mono to that. You don't need fluorocarbon from the standpoint of that line of it to be stealth or hidden on lures, because they're moving fast enough where it's almost always a reaction bite. But on the other hand, if I'm fishing braided line, which a lot of people fish braided line, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is tying that braid directly to your lure. And the reason for that is that as you bring that lure closer to shore, whether it's a crocodile or a Lucky Craft or a swim bait of any kind, the bottom comes, obviously the water gets shallower and the bottom to some extent comes up. And that line up above, just above the hook, will begin to abrase on the sand as you're retrieving it. You don't even know it. And what will happen is it will break down that braided line. And then when you go to make a big hard cast with your $24 Lucky Craft, it'll go flying on its way to Catalina. So whenever you're using braided line, you want to use a fluorocarbon leader. I would usually use something as anywhere between 12 and 20 pound test on there. And the reason is because it's very abrasion resistant. And then the other thing is that you never want to have that leader longer than, I would say 4 feet would be my longest, and usually around 3 feet. You don't want to have to reel that knot up into your guides. You want to have that knot outside your guides when you cast, and have that fluorocarbon leader just long enough so that when it touches in the sand, so you can have as short as a foot long, it doesn't abrase it. If once again, when you're retrieving it, you want to slow down as you come to shore. You don't want your nose of your bait hitting the sand as it makes its way in. That's not what fin bait does. It's not natural at all. Big fish will not go after that. You want to slow down as you get closer to shore. But sometimes you do real quickly, and as it bounces across the bottom like that, it abrases that line where the knot is and right up above it on straight braid, and it will break. So on a fluoro, you can do it with mono if you feel like it. You don't need to, but you always need to use it on braided line.
Absolutely. I believe in my heart that that's a super important thing, because the fact that visibility with the braided line, they can see that line, and those fish in the surf, they're not dumb. They're very intelligent. They didn't get to live in that surf by being dumb. And there's a lot of predators. They're really sketched out. And if you could have that little piece of monofilament or fluorocarbon between your braid and your lure, I believe that's going to change everything. I know a lot of people, Bill, love to fish lures tied straight to the braid. They think it swims better. I can't even do it. I can't tie my lure to my braid. I just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel natural.
Yeah, the only thing we tie directly to braid is the descending device.
Right, because we don't want to lose it. Hey,
That's
we got
right.
Pablo with us here. Let's check in with Pablo real quick, okay? Hey, buddy.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Bill
Good to see you.
Bill was
Hey,
just
Bill, how are you?
about all the great things you've been posting and all the great fish you've been catching, buddy. You've been having a heck of a week.
Yeah, it's been a great week. Even yesterday, I was out for a little bit and found 75-degree water, perfect blue color. The prop wash was just that bitchin' green, foamy looking, super cool off, the blue aqua. It was just awesome out there. Got some yellowtail yesterday, and it's just been, it's just getting better. It's been weird. It's been, some days have been a little scratchy, and you gotta really work hard for them, but that's okay. You still get them. You just gotta work harder. And then some days it's like one patty, one stop shop, full speed, even with casualties, limit out. And it's been like that. One day is phenomenal, the next day is a little harder. But no matter what, if you just keep at it and you keep following the plans that we all come up with, and we collaborate with Justin and everybody on the plans, and just stick with it. Don't follow your emotions all over the ocean. That's just going to cost you a lot of money and fuel. Just, point it to where you think you're going to go. Look at the current breaks, look at the temp breaks, look at the water clarity, and then just send it. Just send it and stick to your plan. I know Captain Dave talks a lot about radio fish, or me driving your boat with your radio. Don't do that. Unless it's your code group or somebody you trust and know. Even then, they're probably not going to, they probably don't know how to give you the right numbers anyway. Unless it's somebody I really know, like in my code group or something. I don't listen to those other channels anyway, but what I'm saying is just do you. Just come up with the plan, listen to our plans, pick the one that works for whatever you're going out with, whatever you want to target or whatever area, and just follow it through. We all do the same thing. We don't make up plans just to make them up. We look at it very carefully and we say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then we share that. And that's why, we're fairly consistent and successful, because, do you have to go plans A through Z? Well, sometimes, but we have all of those in place, and we kind of cover those during the game plan. So, and remember all the things like the current. There was no current yesterday. It was a slack tide for like most of the morning, and I saw probably 30 yellowtail. I wish I had my spear gun, because they were just chilling, just hanging, and they were just like skunking around, like not even really swimming, just kind of hanging, doing nothing. I was able to snag 2 of them with a surface iron, but they wouldn't go for any bait. So, yeah.
Talk about your Saturday, though. That was incredible. Like Bill Barney, I don't know if you heard him talking when you were trying to jump on, but like Bill said, you needed a bigger dock when you laid those fish out on the dock.
Oh, yeah. So it was kind of a very eventful weekend or week, whatever. Went out Wednesday night, about 2,100 hours. We pushed off, and I went out on a 2.5 day. I was working with my friend on his boat, and we went out, trying to get some trophy bluefin. We saw some just big suckers out there. They're huge when you just see them rolling a little bit. You just see them rolling, and they're not splashing, they're not foaming, they're just kind of rolling. And the size of them was incredible. Easily 300 and up. and they were a little picky. I mean, there's a reason they're that size, I guess, or we're just not that smart. But we hit them with everything we had, and they would smash on the dead flyer. They would hit everything, but it was just like little tastes, and they just weren't taking it. They would bump it, they would bite it, they would mangle our flyers. We would put more out immediately, and they were just smarter than us that day. But we managed to get some other ones, you know, like 150, 125, and like just under 100, which were good, you know. But when you see those big old cows and they're just not cooperating, it's the same thing as like the yellowtail just skunking around. It's like, okay, well, we tried, but we kept working and we got the other ones, and it was still a great trip. We had a blast, and you know, you always learn a lot. Like, we had a lot of issues with the balloons, and I think it was just a bad batch of balloons because we weren't overfilling them or anything, and we would have them rigged and ready to go away from sharp objects, just kind of ballooning out off the rod. And I can't tell you, we probably popped 5 or 6 balloons, and that's never happened to me or Reeve before. And it was just kind of, we'd get right there and then literally like grab the balloon, and it would be like it either just popped or we saw that it was already popped. We're like, oh my God, like those kind of things. But we still, like, we would just fly line a dead flyer, or we still had live flyers too, so we would throw those guys out. But either way, it was a great trip. We hooked a really big mako too. It was probably like 600 pounder, and I think I have some footage of that somewhere. But the thing was jumping and flipping and real bitching. We fought it for a while, and then it ended up breaking the braid, not the leader, but it ended up breaking the braid because the thing was massive, and it was just going crazy. So all in all, a good trip. Came back in at like 5:45 in the morning, and then my trip on my boat left at 6 in the morning. And that's the trip we went out, and one-stop shop, first patty 23 miles out. It was like, I won't say the exact numbers on here, but Saltwater Guide members, I'll tell you. Yeah, one-stop shop, 23 miles out. And I mean, wide open. First cast or first set, everybody got hooked. And we probably went maybe 2 for 6. Because just like, you know, the guys getting acclimated, getting used to how we're going to do it. So then I had a little pep talk. We pulled away. I'm like, all right, guys, if we keep doing this, we're going to shut this patty down. We're going to have to move on. I'm like, there's hundreds of fish here. We need to get it coordinated. And these were all military guys, so they were picking up what I was putting down. And I'm like, so I was using words like deploy and this and that. And like, I'm like, all right, we're going to deploy right here. Then you're going to move over. And like, so we actually had like a full system to where I had the guys fishing the bow, I mean, all over the place. I was trying to get the boat sideways to give us the most surface or the most deck space available to be in line with the patty. And man, all it took is one set of casualties. Yeah, we had a few more casualties throughout the day, but we managed 25 yellowtail and 1 big bull dorado. And it was a heck of a day. Super fun. And then drop back into La Jolla just to try for some more stuff, and got a couple more little critters there, but no more yellowtail. And then ended up calling it a day, and they were super stoked.
Heck yeah, that's a hell of a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just incredible. So I had your QR code up on the screen. It looks like a couple people downloaded it, but there's people driving in their cars and truckers and police officers. Everybody listens to our show. Tell them how to get a hold of you to go out with you on your boat. You have 2 boats right now, so there's an opportunity to go with you. Justin, you can forget about it. He has no trips available. But Pablo, you have some stuff available this month.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but you got some stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is I haven't even listed the second boat or made it available because it's so incredibly busy right now. It's kind of nice to have it to where if there's something wrong with my boat or either boat, you have another one just to jump on, fix that one, kind of like reserve. But I've been booking it. Like when people call me, they're like, oh, you can't get me in. And I'm like, yeah, I'll book it. So I haven't even listed it or made it available. And I'm still sometimes getting too many bookings for one day, as Dave knows. And it's hard to keep this all organized, really. But no, I do have availability. August still looks pretty good. It's filling up pretty quick. September, same thing, looks really good. I'm actually getting a lot of lobster bookings starting now already because that's right around the corner. I'm sure we'll be talking about that soon. But yeah, get a hold of me at 619-431-3070. That's 619-431-3070, FernandezCharters.com. Hit me up, and I'd love to get you out on my boats or come out as a guide for your saltwater guide on your boat and show you your local fishery, the best to my knowledge.
And we want you to hang out with Bill and I here. And if anybody has any questions you want to ask Pablo, you go ahead and throw them up on the screen there, and we'll throw them up on the side here. We'll throw them up on the screen. Pablo will do his best to answer any questions you have. But like Justin said yesterday, gang, if you're thinking about going, you better make the call, because there ain't no thinking right now. It's full speed. Day like Pablo's had, three or four in a row. There's no time to wait to go. But Bill, I don't know if you saw my buddy Cubby. Cubby's a big time surf fisherman like you. He's seeing numbers better than he's ever seen Corvina fishing right now on the beach. Did you see that?
I saw that, and I have to agree with him. It's absolutely spectacular. I'm seeing guys, catching 4 to 8 Corvina in a session at the beach. I saw a guy a couple of weeks ago when I was down there for my surf fishing clinic come off the beach. I think he got there about 7. I saw him walk away at about 10 with a stringer of 7 Corvina. It reminded me of my days up at Mammoth, trout fishing. So it has been really spectacular. And it has been, up to recently in the Point Magoo to the Mexican border or above the slough, from that zone, just absolutely wide open. And here we've got a couple of pictures just from the last couple of weeks of guys with stripers. And these stripers have been biting from San Francisco all the way to the Mexican border. And the bite that's been the last 3 ones that we put up there has been in San Diego. The striper bite in San Diego from, I'd say maybe Torrey Pines to Del Mar zone has been nothing less than fantastic. So we're going to cover some of that stuff on our game plan tomorrow about how to target those guys and how to set up for them, what baits they're biting and stuff. But Corvina fishing, striper fishing has been excellent. Halibut fishing's been good up in Santa Barbara. And overall perch fishing's been good along the coast for all those smaller perch we see in the summer. So just some great surf fishing going on out there.
And what is that?
That's a barred surf perch. And that's a nice one. That's probably about a 13-incher.
That's a big one.
That's a whopper. And then what do we got right here?
That's a nice Corvina. It's one
There
of those
you
mini
go,
Corvina.
That's what we're talking about right there.
That's exactly what we're talking about. And I've had a couple of days last week. I get probably a couple dozen reports a week, sometimes more. I had probably 5 reports in a row of Corvina and guys with multiple ones where they got 5 or 7 of them. So really, really good fishing.
Now, hold on. Is this another? No, wait a minute. Hold on, Bill. I got this. Where's right here?
That's
there
a spot
you go,
fin,
gang. This is what you all need to know. This is probably one of the hardest fighting fish in the surf. These spot fin croaker, gang. When you hold on to one, they're like a tank. They are built like a brick poop house. They are solid. They got a big wide tail.
Yep.
And those guys can push some water around. I personally have caught them in the bays and in the harbor. I've never caught them in the surf. Is that a common catch in the surf, Bill?
That is a catch in the surf that you have to work for, but yes, and they're much more prevalent now than they were 40 or 50 years ago because of the opening of all of these estuaries. And the thing about that spot fin, like if you look above his fingers, which would be on his right hand where the spot is, the shoulders on that thing, in combination with exactly what you said, Dave, their tail. They have an especially, now in that picture, not so much, other ones I could show you, they have an especially wide and strong tail. So they're very, very good fighters in the surf. As with all surf fish, they fish back, they fight back and forth along the coast. They don't go out to sea, and they turn their body sideways to those waves, and they are something else to catch. You could be on those things on 6-pound tests, 15, 20, 25 minutes before you're going to get that thing into shore.
That's awesome.
That is an incredible surf fish. Now, I want to go back to these other pictures because this is kind of extraordinary right now for me, because I've been in, not surf fisherman, but these fish right here, Bill, being able to go target these things, is that kind of rare?
It is real, you know, it's so weird. I mean, they went from none forever, you know, just like 1 or 2 a year. They're all, as I've said before, they were all kind of up by Bologna Creek, kind of near where the Hyperion outfall is, because they'll eat anything. And now they have spread out all along the coast. San Luis Obispo has had some phenomenal days to fish to 30 pounds. We're going to see those big fish down here. I mean, we've shown that fish that Brad Byer caught a couple years back in Newport Beach. That was 45 pounds. We're going to see these fish. These fish are, this one is from San Diego. These fish are much bigger than they were just a couple of years ago, where the biggest one was about 24 inches. Now we're seeing these fish into the 30-inch range. It won't, I bet you next summer we're going to see some of these fish in the 30, 35 pound range down here in Southern California. So it's becoming a much more prevalent fish. And what's really interesting is, like, look at that fish. You see how it has no stripes on it, that striper? Well, that was not one of the fish that were introduced to Southern California by the thousands in the 1970s. As Mark Wish pointed out a couple of weeks ago, the fish that we would see, that the ones that were put in the Huntington Harbor and in Newport Harbor in the early 1970s, they have stripes. They have lateral stripes that come down about 3/4 of the way down the side. And we're not catching any of those. We're catching a different variety now. So it's really a big question. No science has been done. Where are these fish coming from, A, and B, why are they so prolific now? So surf anglers beginning now, from now on, will be able to actually go out in areas where they're catching these. They're always adjacent to brackish water outfall areas and be able to target these stripers in the Southern California coast.
Now, I know back east, Bill, they fish a lot of them from boats, getting as close as they can to the surf line, fishing live bait and stuff like that. Is that a fishery? If I came down and went with Pablo, could we go down there and anchor up his boat on the edge of the surf line and fish live bait for these? Do you think that's something we could do?
I think that's absolutely possible. You know, most stripers, you're going to find them somewhere between about halfway out to the outside break and then right outside the surf line. They love pushing up bait, sardine, anchovy, perch, if they can find them out there, just outside the surf line, up on the surface. Many times you'll see birds working those areas, especially off of, like I said, Del Mar, up around Carlsbad Beach there. They'll be working those to the surface. And that's one thing about striper. They are not picky on what they eat. They're going to eat everything from a plastic lure to a crab and every fin fish in between. And I think if we're seeing the fish that are this size, that means that we're seeing a larger and larger, a growing biomass of them. And before too long, they're going to be boiling along the surface, outside the surf, up and down the coast, and it's going to be a much more common catch.
So it's a question, and maybe you and Pablo could pull this off. If you found out they had anchovies at the Mission Bay bait barge, and you called Pablo and you said, "Hey, let's go try this. Let's go up there to Del Mar or Torrey Pines or something and anchor up on the outside and throw some anchovies for chum and fly line in the surf line." That would be pretty interesting, wouldn't it?
It would be. I mean, not only would you have a shot at the striper, but of course you're going to have a good shot at halibut fishing in that case. And I'd fish them also on the I wouldn't fish them on the surface unless they're particularly on the surface. I'd use a Carolina rig with probably the lightest sinker I could get away with outside the surf line there. And then I would always go to like the Carlsbad outlet and any one of the estuaries or harbor outlets that are along the San Diego coast. And that's where I'd set up. I wouldn't set up between them. I'd set up right outside of where that brackish fresh water is mixing with that salt water. And particularly, I would begin in the springtime when we still have some rain. And after a rainy day, I'm going to set up in those spots, and that's where they're going to come and feed. Of course, they live in fresh and salt water, so that's their zone.
I've seen a lot of pictures back east of guys dragging this thing down the beach. So they're obviously a good eating fish.
Mm-hmm.
But Jeanette asked that question, do you keep them or do you throw them back? Me personally, I'm not the guy. I'm going to tell you I'm keeping them. Bill, he's going to tell you he's throwing them back because they're like his magic fish. I'm taking
No, I disagree with you on this one fish. These are prolific fish in freshwater environments, like places like Lake Mead, inside the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. They are there by the millions and they mass produce. They're actually a negative in some respects because they take over areas that other fish who don't grow as fast and who don't reproduce in such great numbers in their spawn. So they really are a fish you want to keep, and they're very good tasting. They have a very white meat, and they're delicious if they're in freshwater or in saltwater.
Well, that would be something that would be interesting to try, Pablo. See if you can put together a trip and go anchor up. Call Bill, ask him which beach to go to, and take a couple guys and go check that out. Anybody can catch a giant bluefin, but who can anchor up in the edge of the surf line and catch stripers? That would be a bitchin' new fishery, Pablo, that you can dominate. Man,
No, I'm down. I got to get Bill out here so we can go try that. Put down a Carolina rig and then
pretty interesting, right? Bill, grab a couple of our members and go do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
And you know, Pablo, that they're such a great fish because they're like a bookend fish. Right. They're really good in the spring where there's no tuna around and it's early in the season, and they're really good in the late fall into December period of time for fishing them too, where everything begins to slow down offshore. Right.
So that was my next question. So when they're not going to split. This is kind of now their house, right?
Yes.
So they can, and Cubby's saying Oceanside Harbor breakwall, lower south breakwall.
Yep.
That sounds pretty interesting. Sounds pretty exciting. I don't know. I never caught a striper. That'd be kind of cool to go out and focus on those. I know the surf fishing thing's cool, but man, you can cover some ground with Pablo's boat, and standing on a boat with a tank of live bait. That sounds really bitching to me.
Yeah.
Something. What do you think, Bill? What do you think about that fishery? No one's done it here. I know up in San Francisco, there's a lot of charter boats that fish. And Bill, you froze up on us for a reason. I don't know what happened. Bill's frozen up. But Pablo, wouldn't that be fun? Bill, log off and log back on if you can hear us. But doesn't that sound interesting, Pablo?
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I've been hearing little bits and pieces of these stripers, and I'm like, there's no stripers down here in the ocean, you know? And then you see guys pulling them here and there, and I'm like, man, yeah, it's one of those things that I definitely want to do, but you know, it's been so busy. But for sure, I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna go give it a shot, and you know, it's a little bit tricky because you got to find a spot that's not really that has a lot of beachgoers, right? Because if you're sitting there right outside the surf, those lifeguards aren't going to have you sitting there. You know, they're going to come after you to move. So we'll have to find a little spot that there's not a whole lot of swimmers.
Well, you know, my brain never stops. It's always going. It's always going 100 miles an hour. Here's what I think. Hoop net time. We got a month to go. We got less than a month, or right around a month, and it's hoop net time. You go and you throw all your hoop nets in the water, and then you go and you anchor up on the edge there, and you start fly lining those anchovies on the edge of the surf line while you're waiting for your hoop nets to fill up with lobsters. How fun would that be?
That sounds like a really good time.
Right, Bill? Wouldn't that be
that'd be great. And like Pablo says, you know, I have dealt with, well, I was a lifeguard for years, but I have dealt with the lifeguards for years. And so this is what I've learned. You're exactly right. Like, you get within a certain distance of shore and the guy in his unit on the beach is going to be on the megaphone yelling out to you, you're too close, you got to go out, and all that mumbo jumbo. So being a lifeguard, I knew when the lifeguards came to the beach and when they left. So I would, you know, kind of fill in around there. And there were some spots that you're familiar with around the Long Beach area where they have swim buoys and stuff. And we know the halibut fishing is really good inside those buoys. So we would go really early in the morning and fish those spots before the lifeguards came. But what I learned also in both LA County and Orange County, and one of my best friends who I played water polo in high school, oversaw all of the boats in LA, all the lifeguard boats in LA County, was the dudes on the boats were all anglers. So
Right.
when I would see the boat go by, I would ring them up on the radio and I'd give them a fish report. And what happened after a couple times, Pablo, is when they would come out of the harbor on their way to go along the beach, they would radio me and say, "Hey, Bill, what's biting today?" And we had this relationship going there, so that when Bill's boat was floating in close to the surf line, there wasn't anybody kicking me out. So I know they're doing it for safety. I don't think we see a lot of swimmers outside of that area swimming. So, we don't want to hit them, of course, but that's really not the issue. They're worried a lot more with us not having boatmanship and getting in the surf line and not only hurting ourselves, but others. So I know that's something we try to work around that, make everybody happy there.
Absolutely. And there's definitely a lot of stretch of coast down here that, there's not really a whole lot of beach access for swimmers and stuff. So just find a little place off the beaten path and just go for it, But yeah, you're absolutely right. Making those relationships is definitely on point, because then they're going to get to know who you are. And, I mean, I don't even mind going and talking to them. Their headquarters is right there by my boat. Just tell them, "Hey man, I'm going to be doing this. I'll be cautious. They're swimmers. I won't even think about it but just don't be tripping if you see this boat anchored up off the surf line."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think a question I have, I don't know anything about these fish, is they're not really, it doesn't matter what temperature the water is, it seems to me, because you just showed us pictures of them and the water is pretty warm. Like Pablo said, he's got 71, 72 degree water right now. It's got to be pretty warm on the beach, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it was 75 yesterday, just a few miles out.
Exactly. And Pablo brings that up. This is exactly what we were talking about last week, how the two tropical storms, which were right off the coast from you, Fabio and Amelia, were spinning down there and sending surf our way. Now, Pablo saw that just in the past few days, we've got this big rise in water temperature. Look at this. Santa Barbara, which we reported last week, Santa Barbara Harbor at 60 degrees, came in at 64.9 today. So there was a 5-degree increase in water temperature in the Santa Barbara area in less than 7 days.
Wow.
Has a lot to do with what's biting offshore, along the coast, the condition, the color of the water, the clarity, all of those things are leading to, really, we're not even at our crescendo here. We have another month or two before we hit this fishing crescendo, both on land, from the beach and offshore and at the island. So it's looking up. It's good stuff, man.
Absolutely.
How big do these stripers get, Bill?
The world record, which was off of Massachusetts, I believe is 84 pounds.
Oh.
The biggest one I've seen in California, in Southern California, off of Newport Beach, was 45 pounds. Anywhere from, that 24-inch, so that probably 6 pound to 15 pound, 16 pound is kind of the average range we saw in years past. And as I said, I think now we're going to see some of these 20, 30 pounders and eventually a pretty large number of 40 plus pounders here off of Southern California.
On the back of Pablo's boat, for sure, you start fishing that surf line. The amazing thing right now, I was with my nephew. I was up there for the War Heroes on Water last week, and we went out fishing in the afternoon out of Dana Point, fished right outside of Doheny. There's a little boiler rock there. We were catching bass. But you looked over the side, Pablo, and you top to bottom anchovies, and not just in one area, miles and miles and miles of anchovies. That's got to keep those stripers in there, right? They like anchovies.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Those stripers, they will travel up to 30 miles a day looking for food. And that's why when you cut one open and clean it and look at its stomach, it could have sidewinder crabs in it. It could have sand crabs. It could have anchovy, sardine, grunion, sories. I mean, everything but moss is going to be in those things, and they will travel miles upon miles to find food. So when they find these big aggregations of bait, and maybe that's why we're seeing them so much here in Southern California, this is where they're going to stay. And they're not going to be like, hey, we're migrating back up to San Francisco Bay in the winter to find food. They're going to stay right down here in Southern California. And as you know, because this is a family show, when they're not eating, you know what they're doing, okay? And that's why there's so many.
So something we're going to go over a little bit, gang. If you got to get back to work, we're not ending at 12. It's 12. I mean, we're not ending at 1. It's 1 o'clock. We're going over because we got these 2 guys on here that I need to talk to about this stuff. So right now, with the phenomenal amount of anchovies, and you and I, before we went live, we were talking about what's about to happen next week with the full moon. Here comes the grunion.
Yep.
Bill, explain to Pablo and all the people listening how important this grunion thing is, that we all need to participate and go show the world what.
Well, on Monday the 19th is our full moon for this month. August is traditionally the last month that grunion run, but I've seen them run into September, and to be honest with you, I'd be very surprised if we don't see them on the new moon, and probably in a bigger numbers than we're going to see here on the 19th. I really am asking everybody out there, if you have a chance to get out and observe the grunion, collect 30 grunion, put them in a Ziploc bag and freeze them for fishing in the winter or into next spring. I'd really appreciate anybody's reports that they can get back to us. I've been putting data together. In the next month or so, I'll be getting a detailed letter to the Fish and Game Commission to give them an update on the grunion runs this summer, spring and summer, that we've seen, which honestly are the biggest grunion runs I have ever experienced. And the reason that I want to get this information to them is when I testified in front of them, which they cut me off before I had enough time to give them all the details, they were really under the impression from the grunion greeters, which is this citizen science group that's non-existent. They're like the fishing club on Mars. There is no such thing. That there weren't many grunion. Well, we are seeing more grunion than we've ever seen before, but so sadly, where we saw one of the biggest grunion runs, which was up in Venice over the springtime and into the beginning of the summer, there was basically one person on the beach, our person, seeing the grunion. Because they've made it illegal to park and to go on the beach after 10 p.m. at night, it's become a de facto closure, and no longer can young children in middle school stay up late at night on a Friday or Saturday night and be taken out by their parents or a school group or a nonprofit organization or a church down to the beach to see these amazing animals. Grunion are the most amazing fish. Pablo and I know of opa, bluefin tuna, yellowfin tuna, all of these incredible fish in the ocean. We see pictures of these giant wrasse around the world, all these great things. But there is really no fish out there who has the ability to come out of the water, to dig themselves down into the sand, to stay out of the water without breathing for 15 minutes or more, dig themselves out of the sand then and swim back into the ocean and live 4, 5, or 6 years longer doing the same thing each year along the beach. It's a phenomenal fish. It's unbelievable. It's incredibly strong. It's going to take a lot of things to diminish their biomass, and we need to get that information, Department of Fish and Wildlife, so that not only will they increase our limit numbers, which they should, but also will if they're talking about equity, inclusion, equality, all of these things they talk about, that they'll make it available for young children and families to get down to the beach at night without being ticketed to see these incredible animals.
And we're going over a little bit because I want you guys to understand this is a phenomenal fishery that is free. So it doesn't cost you anything. and it's something to do at night, and it's something to do on the beaches. And Bill, we're not going to be able on the game plan tomorrow. Maybe you can tell people a little bit about where they should be going and what they should be looking for. But let's talk about for a few minutes here. Let's just give everybody an idea. And I know Pablo's done it before. I did it growing up in Southern California. Those of us that are old, we've done this grunion hunting thing, but there's a lot of people listening that haven't done it. Pablo and I used to do it before we were married because it was part of the deal, man. Take your girlfriend and go to the beach and go grunion hunting. It's like snipe hunting or the submarine racing.
Exactly.
But there actually is grunion, gang. I know it's those of you that haven't seen them before. It's an incredible event when you see it on the beach, gang. There'll be literally hundreds of thousands of these little fish on the beach. Hundreds of thousands, gang. They're in no danger. There should not be a 30 fish limit on them. They're very hardy and they're everywhere. Like Bill said, from San Francisco, 3/4 of the way down the Baja Peninsula, at the islands, they're everywhere. Just talk a little bit about, because there are some rules. You can't use, I'll let Bill tell you how you can catch them. Go ahead.
Okay, well, it's very simple. You can only use your hands. You can't dig a trench and have them land in the trench. You can't use a net or anything like that. Your limit is 30. We've tried to figure out if that was 30 in possession or 30 each time you go or whatever it is, but just stick to 30. And it's really as simple as that. And really the only thing to remember is that, so grunion, what they do is they're unlike other fin fish like anchovy and sardine that ball up. So you watch one of my, you go out on Pablo's boat or you watch Michael Folk's movie and you see that when the tuna or yellowtail or dorado or marlin get underneath these balls of bait, they go in these big balls and they try to hide themselves. And of course, the guys in the middle are the most lucky maybe. Grunion are not like that. They make these long strings of schools of grunion that are about 4 or 5 feet wide and maybe 100, maybe 50 to 100 yards long. And there's 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 of them in a row offshore. And they send in their scouts first, just like in the service. We don't send in the entire army at once. We send our eyes in there first to get eyes on it, figure out what's there first. So they'll come in a small numbers when they first come to shore. You don't want to bother those ones. You want to reduce your light around those ones. They'll take a few moments on shore and then they'll go offshore. They'll tell all of the other rungs of them. And as I said, there's 5, 6, 7 of them offshore that it's safe and to come to shore. So just quietly walk along the beach, use your light to find them. You'll see them shining in the distance. And until they come into big numbers into shore, just lay off. And within a few minutes, no longer than 10 minutes, they'll come in massive numbers of, like you said, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them. At Venice Beach this year, 2 times, I saw them come in the biggest numbers I've ever seen. And I would say we were up in the million number there. So is there biomass being affected? I don't think so, particularly considering that the water quality in that Venice area is other than the Tijuana Slough, is the worst water quality in all of California, and they're still coming ashore in record numbers.
It's mind-boggling that they put this limit on them. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Because they're not commercially fished. People actually go down and get them and they eat them. It's an edible fish. I remember putting them on a cookie sheet, putting them in the oven, cooking them and eating them, and they tasted phenomenal. That's what my mom used to do for us. But there's no shortage of them, gang. Bill talked about this when we first got Pablo on the show about the stripers and how there's been no science done on these. There was no science done on this grunion thing. You have these
0
grunion watchers. My son, both of my kids and Kelly, we've seen these grunion watchers. They literally can't walk. They have no ability to be mobile. They sit in a chair on the beach. And if they come up in front of them, then there's grunion. If they don't come up in front of them, they tell the world there are no grunion. They are not mobile. They cannot walk down the beach and go see if the, and Bill, you know, we could be standing at one spot that we caught them at yesterday, and there's none. You can walk 20 yards down the beach, and all of a sudden there's 100,000 of them. And that's how they're getting this science. So that's why it's imperative. All of you that are listening, understand what Bill's saying. If you can make, okay, you don't want them. You don't want to take them. Bill and I are cool with that. Take us a bunch of pictures, make some videos, send Bill, send me, send us some videos, send us some pictures, or catch the 30 and put them in your freezer and give them to me or Pablo. We'll take them. You don't want them? We'll take them. You know what eats them? Everything. You can go out on Pablo's boat and go fish the Coronados and catch calico bass, yellowtail, halibut, white sea bass on grunion. They're a great bait. They work phenomenal. And everything likes to eat them. But this is one more of those things like we talk about all the time on the show. And when you see Pablo and I out in public, we're constantly telling you to get involved. Pablo is a great ambassador of CCA and the tournament, and the Star Tournament. Him and his guys are putting in more tickets than anybody else because they understand we're under attack right now. The Star Tournament set up, every dime that goes into the Star Tournament is getting back so that we can go out and fight these entities that are trying to stop fishing. So when you see John Stanley and Pablo and the guys fishing these tournaments, they're not only winning these tournaments, but they're also putting tickets in the box for the Star Tournament. So he's double winning, but he's helping us, me and Bill and the rest of our people that are watching, to keep fishing open. The Star Tournament, you got about 2.5 weeks left. It ends on September 2nd. You can still get in, and you can still put tickets in the box. Pablo, you've been putting tickets in the box for the whole time. You and your guys have been putting tickets in the box the whole time.
Yeah, we have, and it's funny though, because I know I've said this before, like I always forget or I don't have time, or so many times I just don't do it, and I'm such an idiot because I should have had 100 to 1 on the entries that I put in there. So but it's either way. Like we've talked about before, I've been given deals if people show me that they signed up, or if they're current members, I give them a deal on a charter or whatever they want to do with me. If they want me to come guide on their boat or whatever, I just believe in it so much. And I'll admit, I didn't realize the importance of it as much as I do now. And that's because you realize, being with my background, I realized, that you need somebody at all those meetings. If you're not represented in all those meetings, they're going to just do whatever they want. And the CCA shows up, in numbers, and they show up at all the right meetings with all the right people, and they're our biggest advocate. None of us are going to those meetings, so if we don't support the people that are going to those meetings to ensure that we don't have more closures and we keep what we have, it's just going to be shut down. It'll be shut down immediately. If the CCA wasn't here, I have no question in my mind that fishing would already have been shut down, because everybody wants it shut down for whatever reason, for all this lacking weak data or whatever they're basing it on. But, I don't want to get a soapbox here, but all I want to say is let's keep it positive. Support the CCA with everything you got. The minimums for the Star Tournament, for membership, but there's nothing saying you can't give more or give whatever you can. You can give less, you can give more. They'll take whatever you got. And if you believe in fishing, then you need to believe in the CCA.
Yeah. And Pablo, you said that so perfect. The lack of science, they're closing all this stuff, using their emotions. And Bill, you've been talking about this grunion thing, God, for the 9 months you've been on the show. We've been talking about it every Wednesday. That was done emotionally, really sad, and no science. And once we lose it, it's gone. And Bill is working very hard to get this grunion thing back for us because it's such an important fishery. It's such an important animal to take your children and your wives and your grandkids down to the beach and see this phenomenon in Southern California. We got people that watch from Florida and Texas that are big time watchers. They don't quite understand what we're talking about. This is an amazing little fish. Like Bill said, it actually gets out of the water. The female buries herself in the sand. The male wraps himself around her. They fertilize the eggs. Then they both come out of the sand and wiggle their way back into the ocean and then go and live their life again. They're not mating once like a squid and never be seen again. These things are prolific up and down the California coast, Baja coast, and it's an amazing little animal. And to have it shut down, it went from literally all you could ever want to 30 with a swipe of a pen for no reason at all.
30 per person? Is that what it is?
Yeah, 30 per person. And I think, Dave, like one of the worst things about it is not the fact that it's 30 per person, which is just ridiculous, because hardly anybody takes them anyway. But there should be some type of limit on it. You don't want to be ridiculous and make no limit, and then you've got people who are selling them commercially in the black market. So there's somewhere that's an equilibrium. But more importantly, far more importantly, is the fact that, like, how many people in our lives have we met, the three of us, that said, I went out on a boat when I was a kid and I saw a whale. And because I saw that whale, I'm a marine biologist, or I'm an angler, or I love the ocean, or I love nature, or I understand nature more. You don't learn that from being in a classroom where there's men in the women's bathrooms, okay? You don't learn that from living inland and never being allowed to go out in the ocean. So when you have these phenomenal animals, you have sea lions and seals and whales that young people see, but more importantly, something that comes on land that you can touch, that you can see, that you can feel, and then you watch it swim away. You will always have that impression your entire life. And that will influence the way that you feel about taking care of the environment and about throwing trash out the window of your car and about cleaning up other people's trash. It will open up your mind to the fact that there's more than just you on this planet. And these other things that are here are phenomenal and awesome.
Do you see the question that Jeanette or the statement she wants you to make, Bill?
Yeah, I have talked to about this to the Fish and Wildlife Department officers, wardens before, and we kind of go round and around on this. So if you can take 30, who's to say when you took those, and how many you have in possession? So. This is something we were talking about before. Like, let's say that the season is open right now and I take my 30 or 10 or whatever I have and I freeze them. And then I go back down to the beach in March when halibut fishing is really good because they're coming in close to spawn. And I've got my grunion with me, but the grunion season, which the grunion are running, is closed to take for 3 more months, March, April, May, June. So 4 months. How am I to prove to them that I didn't take those yesterday and froze them? So this is this gray area we're dealing with here. The wardens kind of tell me like, hey, Bill, we know that they're frozen and maybe they've unfrozen while you're at the beach, but we just jumped to the conclusion that you got them during an open season. I really don't see that happening. And I tell people, when you take the grunion, and although this is not definitive, let's say you put them in a Ziploc bag, take a picture of that bag with your phone. That picture is going to be dated on your phone under properties, and you'll be able to show the officer, I took them back in July of 2024. That's going to be the date under properties for that photograph.
Yeah. It's so funny that we have to go over these silly little things, but it's super important. Like Jeanette said, and Bill just said, it's super important. If we can just be the gatekeeper of the science, because no one else is doing the science. It's up to us, folks. It's up to us to do this. I know it's hard to believe that all that money that the government takes from us that they're supposed to use to do things like this, we all know they're not doing it. They're all using it to buy their Teslas and stuff. So it's up to us to do the science to keep our fishery open. So like Jeanette said, it's super important to date your bag and to pay attention to what you're doing and to have your own science. We have to do our own science, gang. It's super important to do our own science. And then guys like Pablo that are out on the water every day that are telling you, hey, the water's purple blue right now, and it's 74, and it's 20 miles off the beach. That goes against everything they're trying to hand feed these people on land, telling them that the ocean is ruined and the ocean's filthy, and then don't eat anything out of the ocean as they feed you a chicken that was wandering around in some guy's backyard eating poop. That's what you should eat instead of these clean, rich, and yellowtail that are getting caught by Pablo in this purple blue water. It's sad that we live there, but that's where we live, gang, and it's up to us as people that are watching the podcast, listening to what Bill and Pablo are talking about. And we have to spread the word, because the propaganda machine that's out there right now makes us look like the enemy, and we're farthest thing from the enemy. We care more about, the three of us here care more about the ocean than anybody in Washington, D.C. I'll promise you that one. I will promise you that. Most of the people that are making policy have never even seen the ocean.
The other thing I'd like to say is like in Pablo's little finger, he has more knowledge. That little finger has more knowledge about the ocean from him being on it day after day after day in his life than these people who make the decisions. They know nothing. What they learned is what they have read and seen on the internet and how their emotions feel. There's a very small percentage of decision makers in our country when it comes to managing the ocean resources that are people who have spent their life on the ocean, period. So, really everybody who's out there, we love nature. We love conservation. We love the environment. If we didn't, we wouldn't have fish. So it's it's the number one concern that we have. And all we want to do is just pass our knowledge on to others so that you can learn vicariously through the oral tradition, and then hopefully go out on your own and learn on your own.
Right, pretty much. That's kind of what we're telling y'all.
Yep.
That's what we're saying here. We definitely have a vested interest in keeping the ocean clean and keeping the fish at a sustainable level. But nobody practices sustainable fishing more than the United States of America. That's something that Tommy Gomes told us on the show a year and a half, 2 years ago. We don't buy our own seafood in the United States of America. Why? Because we're sustainably catching them and you can't afford to buy them. So you guys buy fish that come from foreign countries that aren't sustainable. We are so overregulated here in the United States of America, gang. We're not going to put a hurt on these fish in any way, shape, or form. But something I wanted to tell you guys before we sign off, for the next 3 weeks, we are celebrating the women of fishing. We got Captain Miranda on the show on Friday. Then we got we got Heather Outdoors coming on the show the following Friday. And it's going to be, and then the week after that, we got April coming on. These are 3 women that are very, very, very important to this industry because they're allowing people to see that it's okay for women to fish, and that women are very, very good at the outdoors and fishing. Miranda and Heather were both on Naked and Afraid. They kicked ass. They kicked the poop out of the men on the show. They're going to be, the next 3 weeks, we're celebrating the women of the industry. It's going to be an incredible next 3 weeks on our special guest on Friday. And I think this is super important for all of us to understand that this isn't a bunch of crusty old men's sport. This is everybody's sport.
Everybody's.
And young ladies need to understand that's why it's important to watch Heather and Miranda on the show and April on the show, because they got a lot to talk about. And then we got Ashley coming on, who's been on Swamp people. She's been on that show for a very long time. Now she's going to be doing more social media stuff. She's going to join Heather on the show next Friday, and Amanda's going to be with us this Friday. And then the following week, April, she is a huge fly fishing person in the world of fly fishing. She's been in lots of magazines, had her own TV show. She's going to be our follow-up guest the third week. So we're going to be celebrating the women of fishing, which I think is a very important thing for all of us to understand. And Pablo and Bill and I would be nowhere without the women that stand behind us. We know that for a fact.
100%. And like, you know, John Stanley with his granddaughters and stuff, and his daughters, his granddaughters, man, those girls, they can fish. They get out there and they freaking slam them. I've been watching them, you know, when I'm in the same area, and they're like 5-1 on all the surrounding boats around there. And it's pretty awesome to see. And even like at the Rod and Reel Club in San Diego, there's just a few kids, you know, there needs to be more kids involved. And, you know, yeah, it's cool to hear us talk about stuff, but it's a lot cooler when you see some little grommet, whether it's a boy or a girl, just completely bent and just like struggling to even keep the rod straight, and, you know, and just having a good old time. Like they never forget that. We've never forgot our first experiences at it, and that's our job, is to, you know, pass it on to them. And yeah, it's really cool to see the surgence of just women just out there just charging it, you know, fishing like nobody's business, and the kids, you know, so it's pretty cool.
And I want to thank you, Pablo, for being on the show. I know you're extremely busy. You were out fishing yesterday and you're going right back out again tomorrow. You're out every day, gang. If you have an opportunity, though, you definitely want to go fish with Pablo. It's a mind-numbing experience, because he does actually care about you very, very much. His whole focus is making sure you have a great day. Whether, he'll tell you right away, if there's a chance to catch a bluefin, he'll go do it. But if there isn't, he's going to switch gears. He's not going to take your money and just take your bluefin. And if there's no chance, you're going to go yellowtail fishing. If there's no chance for that, he can go catch you a bunch of rockfish. And you better get ready. You better get chartered up if you're going to go catch some lobsters with Pablo, because if it's anything like last year, you're going to be standing at the dock going, I wish I would have booked Pablo ahead of time, because there are no dates available now. Pablo?
Yeah, I got the 20th. 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and that's all I have in August.
Hey,
is booked. So
that's a good thing. 4
days, and then September is still pretty wide open as for now. But I've had a lot of people making inquiries. I had like these, I don't know if you remember the German pilots, the group that's come with me 2 or 3 times. They're coming back in September for a few days. So like Bill said, we're just starting. We haven't even reached, I mean, the water's just warming up. Like, it's just starting. So, and what better time? Everybody's back at school. Everybody's back at work. This is a time when you use your vacation, your sick leave, your holiday, whatever, and let's go fishing. You know, it's going to get better and better and better. Obviously, weekends always fill up first, but during the week is, any day is the best. Any day you can fish is the best, but midweek fishing is awesome. Because remember, most of us have to work and go to school, and the other ones that don't, we're just going to be fishing. So.
And Brent wants to know, how's your October looking?
October's looking pretty good still, you know, and, you know, moving forward, remember September, October, and forward from there is going to be booking up big time for lobster. So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, no, October, I got a couple bookings in October, and it's still pretty open. September is fairly open. August is almost over, right?
Yeah.
But back to the grunion thing real quick. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna make Jeanette, David, and John Stanley go grunion hunting with me. So I'm gonna throw that out right now. We'll try to go live and do all that and just have a ridiculously good time. And you know,
that would be so fun to watch if you guys get down there as a group, and we'll go live. That'll be so fun for everybody that can't get down there to go see what the heck we're talking about. If Pablo does that and you guys see it, you will not believe it.
Yeah.
You won't believe it.
Open to all your Saltwater Guide members. And then, you know, if you guys want to become members, we'll include you. We'll jump you guys into the circle.
And then Bill Varney's tomorrow, game plan Thursday. Bill's going to be putting out his surf fishing game plan again, and it's going to be open for all of you. And we're going to share it across all of our social media stuff so you can see how good it is. Those of you that know, Pablo, when he tells you a game plan, I mean, he's been doing it for 2 years. His game plans are right on. People follow him. I mean, John Stanley, he thinks it's the Bible. He follows exactly what you say all the time. And I love reading his post after he's followed exactly what Pablo says to do. And John Stanley's got 100 fish on the boat. His kids are catching 1 million fish. And the same thing with all the other great people that you have in your sphere of influence from your saltwater guide. But gang, you've got to pay attention to this new part of our website, the Bill Varney surf fishing thing, because a lot of you that are watching don't have a boat. This is going to give you an opportunity to not have to spend a bunch of money, because I know the economy's, well, now the guy that was telling us the economy is great, he's no longer telling us, he can't even talk. So now we're starting to understand that the economy might not be as good as they were telling us it is, because he's not allowed to talk anymore. They got him in a cage somewhere. So, right, Bill?
There's some napping going on.
Yeah, I don't want to lose half my audience. I know. But then again, the half of you that are voting for that side, I don't know why you are, because all they want to do is stop you from fishing, and I can't vote for that. Sorry. I don't care what color the man is. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I know we went over a half hour. I know Pablo's got stuff to do. Bill does. I want to thank everybody for being a part of this. We're going to leave you with this new reel from Okuma that Bill's standing behind, and Bill's going to have some new lures to show us here in the next couple weeks. Okuma is stepping up. Fish Labs is stepping up. But from me, thank you all very, very much for watching. Pablo, you want to thank everybody?
Yeah, thank you guys, all you Saltwater Guide members, so much. I love the feedback. I love everybody calling me. I mean, my phone's been blowing up, and it's so funny because I'll be out there and I'll get spotty service for like 30 seconds, and somehow I get a phone call, and I give them a quick custom game plan. And I'm just so stoked to see everybody all the time and hearing everybody, and then seeing the posts. I mean, it's almost like I said before, we've kind of built a machine that's going to put us out of business, because so many of our members are just freaking dialed and smashing it out there. I mean, it's like, I'm going to start calling them for game plans,
Yeah, but the one good thing is they all want to hear what you guys are going to tell them to go do this weekend. They're all standing by. Everybody loves Thursdays. They love Game Plan Thursday. They can't wait for it. And we're putting together some phenomenal game plans, and I'm happy to have Bill as a part of this thing. So thank you, Mr. Varney. Thank you, Pablo. And then, gang, check out this new reel from Okuma. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a great day. Be kind to each other. Turn off the news. They're all lying. Let's go out and have a great day. Bye.
Hey guys, this is John Bretz with Okuma Fishing Tackle. What I have here is one of the most exciting introductions of the year, the new X Series spinning reel, our flagship spinning reel. And what's amazing about this is Okuma was able to build a reel that's the best of both worlds. You got a tournament bass reel as well as an inshore spinning reel. So both freshwater and saltwater applications, 2,500, 3,000, 4,000 sizing, starting at 7 ounces. Super lightweight, but what's nice about it is it's very rigid. So you want to use it for inshore. It's a lightweight and rigid aluminum body and aluminum side plates. To keep it lightweight, we have our cyclonic flow rotor, which is injected out of C40X. So again, very lightweight, very corrosion resistant. As everybody knows, you want a good drag system. This is equipped with our carbonite drag system. The 2,500 and 3,000 output 22 pounds of max drag. When you get to the 4,000, it outputs 24 pounds of max drag. These are 6.2 to 1 gear ratios. So when you turn that handle, you're picking up a lot of line with every turn. This is accomplished by a machined aluminum, CNC cut AL70 aluminum drive gear. That aluminum drive gear is also anodized. So again, perfect for both fresh and saltwater applications. One of the great features that we have in this is what we call hydroblock body. So these are a set of water seals that prevent water intrusion. So that's going to be a good complement for both freshwater and saltwater applications. The other great thing is you have the machined aluminum handle that can be put on the left or right hand. It threads directly into the drive gear. It's a really thin profile, so lightweight, but super strong. The advantage of this for both fresh and saltwater anglers is that when you pull back, there's no back play at all. One is that helps from the one-way roller bearing, but also the screw-in design helps eliminate any of that back play tolerance. Another amazing part of this reel for you inshore anglers is that you'll notice on the bottom there's no on-off selector for the anti-reverse. Why did we do that? That's another source for water to intrude into the reel. So we left that out. The majority of freshwater anglers aren't back and reeling these days, so this is a great addition to this reel that's going to make it really durable for both freshwater and saltwater applications. And the other thing that's really nice is it's a one-piece seamless bail, so there's no area for braided line to hang up in those small little groove connections. This is one-piece connection all the way around. This is an 11-bearing drive reel, so you can expect super smooth performance, super durable, long life performance out of this reel. It starts at a $219 retail for the 2500 size. If you want to find out more details on the new X Series spinning reel, check it out at okumafishingusa.com.